Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this session. A reminder that the session is being recorded. Next slide. There is a Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. That is the question and answer feature. You can use this to ask us questions and we will answer them as we're going through the content of this webinar. We have a team of people from UC San Diego who are positioned to answer your questions as we're going through the content. A reminder not to share any personal information in the Q&A feature, to use them anonymously, and we will also answer them privately. And we will try to address as many questions as possible. Next slide. Welcome, my name is Karina Vio. I'm the Senior Officer for the Office of Parent and Family Programs. Today we are joined by campus partners and friends who are collaborating on this topic of safeguarding your students' records, a very important topic among many others, but we will be focusing on how we work together to secure your students' records, your role, your students' role, and the university's role as well. So the Privacy Office, Student Financial Solutions, Campus Police, and International Students and Programs Office are here today to talk about this topic. Next slide. Again, this is who we are. Pega is here to talk to us, as well as Mark, Andrew, both from Student Financial Solutions Office, Patrick from Campus Police, Dulce from International Students Abroad's Office, International Students and Programs Office, excuse me, and myself as the Senior Officer for Parent and Family Programs. Next slide. So again, today the purpose, the takeaway for this session, for this webinar session, is to explain the importance of privacy of students' records. Recognize and discuss the issue of financial scam among college students, which is a national issue, particularly among international students, and share resources and recommendations for safeguarding your students' records. Next slide. So right now I'd like to bring my friend Pega, who will start by talking about privacy and what that is. Go ahead, Pega.
Thank you, Karina. Hi, everyone. My name is Pega Parsi. I am the Campus Privacy Officer here at UC San Diego. Welcome to our community. We're delighted to have you here, and we want to talk to you a little bit today about privacy matters on our campus. Privacy and confidentiality and information security are incredibly important to us here at UC San Diego, and I wanted to orient you to the way that we discuss these issues on our campus. The first thing I tell everyone at UC San Diego is that privacy isn't just about confidentiality or secrecy. Privacy for us means the ability to exercise control over ourselves, to have autonomy and an understanding of what happens to us, whether that is our body, our communications, our stuff, our territory, our space, and also, very importantly and relevant to this conversation, the personal data that is collected and used about each and every single one of us. So as you may know, the university maintains records about each one of us. As far as students go, we maintain educational and health records for you in order to provide you with services. So things like registration, things like getting vaccinations, or if you get sick throughout the year. We keep those records for those purposes. Your student records, your your educational records, as well as your health records, are protected by state and federal laws. And of course, University of California policies, which have some of the most stringent privacy policies in the country. Just so you know, my office is a resource for you. The Campus Privacy Office is here to answer any questions that you have from students, from parents, and later on down the road from alumni. So feel free to shoot me an email or contact me if you have any questions about any of your records that we have on campus. Next slide, please. So personal information is collected in a variety of different ways from each and every single one of us through any interaction with technology, whether that is use of your mobile device, whether that is your search history, whether it's how you interact with educational technology. That information certainly can and is used for beneficial purposes, such as providing you services, providing you with health access. But as we all know, that same exact information can also be used inappropriately to do things like monitor us or target us for particular types of messages, manipulate us to make decisions we would not necessarily have always made on our own. Or, very importantly for this conversation, to defraud us, either of our identity or of financial, money from us. So we want to be very careful about how we are sharing our information with really any entity or organization. You will hear a lot more about this as we go on today, but most financial and identity scams depend on some sort of emotional manipulation, whether that is giving you some sort of arbitrary deadline or making you feel panic or fear about your immigration status, for example, or making you think that you know the person that is communicating with you because they have enough information about you to make the information seem legitimate. So what we want to do is to make sure everyone hears this very clearly, that you should not share personal information with people or any technology platforms that you do not know and do not trust. If you do receive a communication and you're unsure about where it came from or if it is legitimate, please pick up the phone or go to the website independently without clicking on links you don't know, to make sure that you are actually interacting with the entity that you think you're interacting with. One very important thing to note is that students themselves are responsible for any sort of interaction that occurs using your credentials. So things like your username, your password. If those are handed out to other people and they use it, whatever goes wrong using your credentials, you are accountable for as the student. So for that purpose, for that reason, we advise students to never share their username, their password, that sort of information with anyone. That includes friends, that includes family, parents. Do not share your information. There are other ways for them to interact with the university in an appropriate way using their own credentials when that is necessary. So do not share, even with particular UC San Diego staff, if you are requested to give someone, for example, if someone calls you and asks for that sort of information. And of course, it should go without saying that your login information, your credentials, any sort of password should never be shared on public websites. It should never be posted in a discussion forum, nothing like that. That will cause privacy concerns for you, certainly, but it can also lead to financial impacts on you. So if you have any questions about any of this, please contact me. These sorts of things can result, the sharing of personal information and sharing of your password in particular can result in disciplinary action. If you do have questions, please reach out first, ask questions first before doing anything else. We are here to help you, and we are happy to have you as part of our community. And with that, I will hand this over to my colleague, Mark Adams from Student Financial Solutions. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mark Adams. I'm the supervisor for student accounts, a unit of the Student Financial Solutions Office, which is the primary billing office on campus. I'm very glad you've all made the time to join us this evening. This is a very important subject that a lot of things I'm going to talk about have already been said, but you know, you can never stress them enough. They're that important. When it comes to personal security of your information, the most important safeguard a student can protect is your credentials. What Pega was saying earlier was, you know, your credentials. That's your lifeline to your account to your information, and you don't want anybody else to have that lifeline. That's yours. You know, these things include the student number, your password used for logging into your website. It also includes your Duo information. Duo is our dual step authentication system that we have on campus. You use your phone or a computer to, you know, when you log into something, it's going to ask you for a secondary authorization and authentication system, and that's what the Duo is. That's never give that information out either, because that's that's our secondary way of making sure you are who you are. When it comes to UCSD has a number of approval forms when it comes to payment. We have a couple of approved forms of payment for you in order to pay your student fees. These are available on the Triton Link website under the billing and payment section. You only want to use those that are available to you. You never want to use a third-party vendor, no matter how good the deal may sound. Those are not legitimate. We don't accept those. There is, you know, while there might be some that are legitimate out there, the majority of those are going to be some kind of way to get money out of you or get into your account, and you should just avoid them at all cost. We encourage all students to use direct deposit. Once you're in the United States, if you can set up a local account with any of the bank accounts around that are local to you, we can do a direct deposit to there. That gives you a direct access. You don't have to worry about check money or wiring money. You've got a way to do all your accounting through a local bank. This information also has access to your personal banking account. So when you are doing, it's all the more reason to we discourage sharing those credentials, because you are giving that doorway to your personal access for things outside of the school as well, like your banking information. And this even includes your parents. For parents, we have a very convenient means of you to have access to your student billing. This is our authorized payer program, which allows a student to allocate up to 3 people that they authorize to view, pay, and discuss their billing information with the university. Parents without authorized status have no access to your online billing information, and extremely limited in what we can talk to about them in their of their student account if they try to call us. Parents with, like I said, they have no access. Without the student's approval, they can't gain access to that student accounting. Once you've been given access as a parent, you have your own credentials. You have your own authorized payer portal. You set up an email that you use. Your credentials will not work on the student portal. Like I said, there's a dedicated portal for an authorized payer. Without your student's approval, you can't get those. So it's important to talk to your student, make sure work with your student to get yourself authorized. Once you're authorized, you have full access to the account and to being able to look at that billing and that payment. The university itself will always confirm who you are when we speak to you, that you're verified. Email contacts with the university should always be through a UCSD provided email if you're a student. Never use your Gmail or your Yahoo account. If you're emailing us, always use your UCSD email account. That's one of the ways we can identify who you are. Parents should always use when they do the same, if they email us, use the same email that you use when you set up your authorized payment, your authorized payer portal. That email is linked to the account as well, and we can access you much more quickly without having to go through some other steps to see if you're authorized. The university maintains the most recent security software. We do monthly updates. We have the 2-step authorization process for any web usage. We take your security extremely, with great sensitivity. It's very important to us that your privacy is reflected upon us as well. You know, we take that very seriously, and we want to make sure that we are protecting your privacy as much as you should on your own. With that said, we'll move on to Dulce. I'll move on to Dulce Dorado.
Okay, thank you, Mark. So my name is Dulce Dorado. I'm from the International Students and Programs Office. So we continue to see an increase in the number of scams that have been targeting our international student community. I think it really happens especially at the beginning of the academic year when students are adjusting to a new environment, and maybe because of cultural and language issues, it may be difficult then to determine whether an offer of help or a request for money is real or fake. We've even found that with continuing students, they're also subject to these types of scams, especially at the beginning of the fall term when students will be paying large sums of money for tuition or housing and fees, or even during income tax season during the spring. As Karina shared, this is not, and Peg have shared, this is not unique to UC San Diego or the United States. And we've seen these reports in other countries as well. And in fact, last year, victims reported to the university that they collectively lost nearly $500,000 to these strangers or suspects. What are common techniques that are used by scammers? Typically, strangers will target individuals and then mislead them in order to illegally receive money or personal information. They'll use a variety of, I guess what you would call persuasive techniques. One is familiarity, two is authenticity, and three is time sensitivity. So an example of familiarity is the person that might be calling or sending intimidating messages via social media really seem to be familiar with the student's information, or they know their situation. In terms of authenticity, the strangers will sometimes say they're from immigration, or they're from the police, or the IRS, which is the Internal Revenue Service, or even a law enforcement officer in the home country. So the call or the message seems very authentic and very real. Time sensitivity, the strangers will often convey a sense of urgency, to respond immediately, to convey personal information or banking information, or just information about their financial situation. And then of course to wire money to resolve an issue. A fourth technique that's used is outright fear. In severe situations, strangers will even threaten students by saying that they have an open case involving a student in a criminal activity, or that the victim's account has been used for illegal activity. So oftentimes then the students are afraid and scared about not responding. So these strangers will often maybe threaten the well-being of the individual student or their loved ones. Or even sometimes in worst case scenarios, they might even say that they will be detained or arrested. So we understand that the concept of privacy in the United States that's related to control over ourselves and autonomy may be different from what some students may be familiar with before coming to UC San Diego. But again, as my colleagues have stressed, both Mark and Pega, it's not, please encourage your students not to share, their usernames, passwords, banking information, or financial information to those that are not familiar with them. And of course, when in doubt, the credible sources for alerts and announcement and reports, of course, is our campus police department. And I know Officer Dobbins will be presenting soon. And there is a website, police.ucsd.edu/alert, that lists these community alert bulletins warning our community about these scams. And also isafety.ucsd.edu is a site maintained by the International Students and Programs Office that outlines the most common scams that are targeting our international students. So again, I wanted to share this information because I know that this is something that usually happens during the beginning of the academic year, and we hope that our students remain safe and continue to be able to protect their information. So thank you.
All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Andrew Weidler, and I also work at Student Financial Solutions with Mark. And I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about recommendations and best practices for maintaining your privacy, especially as it pertains to your student billing account. So the first thing I want to touch on is just the accepted forms of payment at UC San Diego. Mark mentioned this on his slide. And so to go into a little bit greater detail, we do offer a variety of payment methods, both online as well as in person. For online payments, we accept ECheck. ECheck is the most recommended source of payment. We also accept credit card and international payments. Our primary international payment partners are Flywire and Western Union. And then if, when the time comes to be on campus and to submit payments in person, we also accept cash, check, and money order at the central cashier's office. So if you're trying to pay with something other than one of those methods, please reconsider. If you have any questions about the payment method that you're utilizing, please contact our office immediately and we can help talk you through the most appropriate form of payment for you. I also want to emphasize that UC San Diego does not offer discounts or any type of reductions of tuition or other fees. So a big selling point to some of these scams that people try on our students is to offer typically about 5% discount in some sort of tuition payment. Again, we are never going to offer any sort of discount like that. So if you're being offered a reduction in discount, something like that, it's most likely going to be a scam. And we encourage you to eliminate any sort of conversation or further interactions with whoever might be offering you that type of deal. I also want to emphasize again the student portal versus the authorized payer portal when it comes to making payments and accessing your billing information. Because we do have an authorized payer portal available for parents or other authorized individuals that students decide to authorize, there's really no need, there's no point in having to share your own personal login credentials. That's really not something that you're ever going to have to do because your parents or your other authorized payers are going to have their own login credentials, their own username, their own password that will still grant them access to the same billing information that you would see on your own Triton Link side. So that's a very important distinction that we want to make sure students understand, because moving into our best practices, again, I can't emphasize this enough. I think everyone else has said this up to now, but do not under any circumstance share your credentials with anyone. Again, there's no reason to do that. It's really only going to lead to potential trouble, and we want you to be safe and secure in the most way possible. And along those same lines, just for your own benefit, keeping your credentials somewhere safe, keeping them secure, somewhere where only you can access them. I know there's online systems where you can save your username and passwords for various sites and access points, and so if that's something that would help you, that's certainly an option. But again, you really do not want or do not need to be sharing your own credentials with anyone for any reason. I also want to give a quick example of a student who was scammed that we saw through our office and what they could have done a little bit differently. So in this particular case, a student was offered a 5% discount through a third-party vendor. I think this student was also an international student, and we do see international students targeted a little bit more frequently than domestic students. So they did offer her this reduced service, this discounted cost if they use their service to pay for the fees. So she paid this company whatever that amount was, and this company in turn used 8 different stolen credit cards to pay the fees. So on the surface, the student thought that they were getting a good deal. It looked like the payment went through, but then about 3 months later, the actual owner of the stolen credit cards filed a police report, and the student who thought she had gotten a great deal had to go in and talk to UCSD police, kind of figure out what was going on, and really at the end of the day, she lost the payment that she made to that third-party vendor, but then she also had to make the same payment again to the university because it was a payment that was never received. So it's a really tough lesson to learn. We know that tuition, registration fees, any other charges can be a financial burden at times. And so to keep you safe, using those only authorized accepted forms of payment is going to be in your best interest at the end of the day. And I know Pega mentioned this during her slide, but that the emotional manipulation comes into play for something like that, because a student will hear what they want and in a potential reduced discounted tuition, and it's easy to see the appeal to that and want to take an opportunity to pay a little bit less. But just being aware of what's being offered to you, and what we like to say, if it's too good to be true, it most oftentimes is. And so just being aware of that. And if you do think you've been scammed or think you've been targeted, we encourage you to contact UCSD Police, contact the International Students and Programs Office, contact our own office to check the status of your account. And we're going to be there to help you through and figure out exactly what's going on and give you appropriate recommendations for next steps. Thank you.
Officer Dobbins, is there anything you'd like to add?
Yes, thank you. Pat Dobbins with UCSD Police. And a lot of it has been covered, but I do want to reiterate about the ones that we're seeing the most common scams is that tuition payments. So do not accept any third party. The other is in threats of arrest, deportation, or problems with immigration or visa cancellation. They sound very real and legitimate. However, in any criminal investigation, we will never request payment via gift card, Bitcoin, or anything like that to avoid an arrest or criminal charge. Those are the most common things that they use as a fear tactic. So just remember, we will never have payment be done in order to end a criminal investigation or avoid arrest. That's all done through the court processes here. The other thing too is if you are contacted by somebody claiming to be law enforcement, claiming that they're conducting some sort of investigation, and they had questions for you or you're a suspect in that, you can always request to meet with them in person to verify their credentials, so that you could show you their ID, make sure that they're real police. If they refuse to do that, it's likely a scam. Again, and you can also contact them at a later date at a phone number or website that you find on your own via Google, or that is an official website, rather than clicking on the link or anything like that. Especially if they ask for any personal information, ID numbers, driver's license, anything like that, visa numbers. So those are just some of the things I wanted to point out.
Thank you. We have a couple questions in the Q&A channel. The first one is, how do we know an email is genuinely coming from UC San Diego? So we get a lot of emails, students get a lot of emails. How do we know that the email is real, coming from UC San Diego? Is anyone able to answer that?
I can start. I think we've all touched on this just a little bit. As Andrew said, if you receive an email and it seems too good to be true, double check. Similarly, if you receive an email or a phone call that seems too awful to believe, and there is a very fast deadline, if you don't respond today, if you don't respond within the next 2 days, you will be arrested. Any sort of emotional manipulation like that should cause you to pause and go and verify that information independent of the phone call or the email, right? So if something seems either too good or too bad, I will close out the email, or I will turn off the phone and go to the source of the information, either by looking up the website or calling a known good phone number to ask, hey, Andrew, did you send me this Venmo instruction to send you information? We will not, and Andrew can correct me if I'm wrong, we will never ask you for payment through Venmo. Right.
That's-
So
that's
anything
correct.
that's right. So anything that's out of the ordinary or uses Venmo, I would say check to make sure that those are okay. The other thing you can do is, of course, as this is just good practice anywhere, not just with UC San Diego, is to hover over a link before you click on it and really look very carefully to see that it actually is from ucsd.edu, not, for example, ucsd.edu.com. That would be not a legitimate source of information. Again, if you have questions, you have a whole source of a whole group of people that you can reach out to ask those questions.
I've got one more piece to add when it comes to emails, especially the ones that are coming from the financial group, through financial aid or through the billing office. We stopped the practice of putting live links in our emails several years ago. So if you get an email from us that has a live link about your billing of any kind, that's a key right there that something is not right about that. We would like you to let us know so that we can look at it, and there's a whole task force that's set up through our IT department who we can send it to, who will start researching why this is happening. But you will not get an email with a live link from your billing about your billing. You'll always have to type the link type the new address into your browser yourself. So that's a key point to think of when you're getting emails from the university.
Thank you, Mark. We have another question. I believe, oh, I think it got deleted. Oh, there it is. So this is a question for Mark or Andrew. Is ECheck only available in the US? I inquired several banks. They do not provide other than international transfer through SWIFT or Western Union. So maybe talk about specific paying methods for families of international students.
Not a problem. Yes, it is available to only a domestic bank. It has to be based in the United States. Now, if you have a bank like Citibank that does have international banks, those can be used because they do have a U.S. domestic presence. But a lot of any normal international banks that will not have a ECheck access. They have to be a domestic bank. What we recommend is that when you do get to the school and you have settled into your routine, that you open yourself a domestic account. There's a Chase Bank on campus. There's a USC credit union on campus. There's a couple other branches of Wells Fargo and Bank of America very close to campus. I won't recommend one over another because that's not our job, but those banks are available to you. You can deposit money into them and then use ECheck through the local bank while you're here. And you can set up direct deposit for any kind of refund that you might have. And that way that refund is not generating as a check that's mailing overseas to to your home country in U.S. currency, and the delays that takes. That's a very process that we find a lot of people have a lot of trouble with, and we would much prefer to make it ease of access for you to the best of our ability is to have you have a bank that's local. Now, what are your options for when you're international and you need to get that initial payment to us? You don't have a bank set up in the U.S. yet. We do have 2 wire services that are available to you. We have Western Union and Flywire, and we've found that almost all of the countries that we deal with have at least one of those 2 services available that you can use. The SWIFT payment, direct wire transfer unfortunately is not an authorized form of payment for the university. Doesn't mean we can't take it, but it does mean that because it's not authorized, you are not protected by the assurance that you've got that the payment's made. It's until that payment actually posts, we can't do anything about the account balance that's there. We highly recommend against using wire payments. Unless it's your absolute last resort, please look at Western Union and look at Flywire as your options. If there's any other questions about those, please feel free to ask them, because I'll be happy to answer those again. But
is there a, do you know the URL where families can learn more about ways to pay?
It's through Triton Link, tritonlink.ucsd.edu. You want to go to billing and payment, the billing and payments tab, and that gets you to the student account. Again, to get that far, only your student can get that far initially until you've been set up as an authorized payer as a parent. But then you get access to all those access. Andrew, do you know if there's a information page that's outside of the credentials?
Yeah, if you go to our website, SFS,
Oh, of course, yeah.
sfs.ucsd.edu, there's a tab across the top entitled, I think, student accounts, and there's all sorts of resources and information about how to pay your bill, approved payment methods. So that would be what I would recommend.
Correct. I'm sorry, I had blanked on our own webpage. So yeah, again, that's sfs.ucsd.edu, and that's available without credentials. Anyone can go there and review all of those options.
There's another question in the Q&A channel. It says, can parents continue to pay the student's bills through Flywire even after the student has opened an account in the US?
Certainly. That's always an option.
Great, awesome. I think that's it for Q&A. Can we move on to the next slide?
I think there was one more question that I was asked earlier. I accidentally deleted.
Just saw one on the chat. Okay, so we have another one. Could you ask about the safety of credit card form of payment, as there are multiple questions pertaining to that? So maybe talk about using the credit card as a form of payment, if I understand the question correctly.
Credit cards are, as long as it's your credit card, make sure it is your credit card that you're using. You can use that right through our payment portal. You can use that internationally through our payment portal, unlike ECheck. That's fine. It needs to be a MasterCard or it needs to be a Visa. That's the only two options, the only two credit cards that we do take. But they're perfectly fine. There is a 2.75% service fee that's not charged by the university. It's charged by the credit card company itself. So do keep that in mind if you use a credit card. That can get quite significant with some of the tuition payments that are being made.
Thank you. I'm going to try to get through this question here. We are expecting a refund or payment due to scholarship payment from UCSD after we paid this quarter's tuition fee. Since the student is still out of the country and does not have a US account set up, will the scholarship payment be kept as I think a plus balance in the student's UCSD account? We just want to avoid getting the refund check sent through international mail to our foreign address.
Unfortunately, no. With financial aid, which scholarships do include, we're obligated to send them out as soon as they're available for refund. We can't hold them. We have federal guidance. We have to have them out of the student account within 10 days. So we don't have that option to hold them. So your best option is to, this quarter is a little different because we do have COVID and we've got people who may not be coming in and actually being on campus. They may be doing remote learning. If you do have refunds from that, they are going to go international mail, unfortunately.
Great, thank you. Okay, let's move to the next slide. Thank you for the questions, everyone, and thank you, the panel, for the answers. Okay, so again, as a reminder, these are resources we've talked about, that the panelists have talked about. These are ways to learn more about the information we shared from the Campus Privacy Office, Campus Police, our International Students and Programs Office, Student Financial Solutions. You can learn more about how to become an authorized payer, which might be a strange term for you as the adult getting authorized by your student to view their billing information. But this is where you can learn more about that. We also urge you to talk to your student about making sure that their information includes an emergency contact, but this is also the place where your student can update their local address information, phone number, emails, as well as family information. And of course, we offer parents and families programs as a place of resource to learn how we keep you connected to UC San Diego. Next slide. We are uploading all of our webinars after the recording at the end of the day. At the end of the week, there will be a compilation of 8 webinars that will be uploaded on our YouTube channel for parents and family programs. And we want to offer instructions on how you can change the closed caption into your preferred language so that you can listen to what we just mentioned, not just in English, but also in your primary language. So indicated by the arrow on this slide, this is where you will start to follow the steps that are listed on this slide. Next slide. Again, we're looking forward to spending some time with you this week. We have 2 webinars a day from Monday through Thursday, September 24th. Tomorrow, please join us again at 4 o'clock to talk about your student's visa and what you need to know and what your student needs to know. And we also have at 5 o'clock a panel of faculty who will talk about teaching at UC San Diego, engaging with your student academically, and other opportunities related to academic goals. To learn more about what we have planned for the entire week, please visit us at parents.ucsd.edu. Click on the events tab and then International Parent and Family Programs, and you will see the list of webinars we have planned for the week. Next slide. And if you were with us earlier at 4 o'clock, you'll hear this again, that we are planning an excellent program October 19th through the 25th. Homecoming at Home brings the entire community together. It's students, faculty, staff, alumni, parents, and families through a number of different activities, games, webinars, faculty presentation. We have something specific to parents and families of all students. So we encourage you to register for the week and learn more resources that we have at UC San Diego that support your students' experience at the university. Please visit us at parents.ucsd.edu to learn more, and you can register at homecoming.ucsd.edu. So that's all we have for you. Again, we love spending time with you. We look forward to seeing you for the rest of the week. I want to thank the panel today for being with us and everyone else supporting the program by answering questions and being there for you. So we will see you tomorrow. Look for an email indicating how to log into our sessions tomorrow and for the rest of the week. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.